pulled my hood down as I clutched the food I managed to buy at a low price today. I didn't know how long my money would last, but I was prepared to minimize spending as much as possible. This was going to be my only meal today, and it was already sundown. This was the only way to stretch my money. I had been living on the streets for about 2 months now, having lost my home because I wasn't powerful enough. I couldn't believe they took over my home. According to the government, my home was no longer habitable and I had to look for a new place to live. Even though I tried to explain to them that I had no one and I couldn't find any other place to live, they were less concerned. At a point, they threatened to use their robots to kick me out along with the rest of my things. So I packed my things into my orb and left the house that used to be my home. Now I lived on the streets, the places where the government pretended they knew nothing about. The places where those not rich or powerful enough stay. The crimes committed don't get reported. As long as it doesn't affect those at the top, everything was fine. I stayed at one of the abandoned corporation. It was a big building but was just uncompleted. There was metal hanging out in different places. I wasn't the only one who stayed there, but I had found a place where it was just me. It was one of the rooms in the building on the 3rd floor. I placed my orb on the floor and pulled out my blanket from it. One good thing about this time was the fact that technology had really advanced from what it used to be. Taking the orb for example, it was the size of a coconut and was really light, but it can suck in a lot of things. It used a form of AI tech that enables it to bend the shape and form of whatever anyone wanted to put inside. And if one needed something that has been placed inside, all the person had to do was click on the item that would show on the face of the orb and one would be able to pull it out. It saved one from the stress of carrying a lot of things when all you needed was one orb. The world had moved on and brought on those technological advancements that people expected of the future. In this day, technology took dominance over the society. There were sonic plates that ran along the ground, covering the floor. Essentially, the sonic plates could be controlled to do various things such as regulate temperature or take on various shapes, depending on what the owner of that particular place wants. But all that was only available in residential homes and was not available on the streets, where people like me lived. There was nothing like countries anymore. The territories have been divided into stations. I lived in Station D and I knew it was the same everywhere as it was here. Farms have been declining rapidly, leaving it to those who can afford to have soil and the means to care for them. The environment is very controlled and the government had a tight leash on all of us. They basically regulated everything from food to housing to clothes. Life for many wasn't horrible, but it was hindered by rampant corruption. Corruption was inevitable. Those who had power wanted to remain in power and were willing to do anything to remain there. The government had some sort of security guard system to protect their people, they said. Rebelling against them will only make life more difficult for them. Besides, it was a battle no one was ready to fight. On the streets, I saw different people in their Hoovers speeding to their various destinations. Hoovers are a type of vehicle that looked like floating scooters. They hover a little bit above the ground and are self-aware. They have been programmed to not hurt other Hoovers. Imagine that, there was nothing like accidents anymore. The world was much easier than it used to be in the 21st century, but I didn't think it was better. At least, there used to be more people alive then and they didn't have to rely on the government to live. The only thing that all the amount of technology could not solve was the sickness. People are always falling sick. My parents died from the sickness and at the back of my mind, I was waiting for my turn. Jay didn't know why they died and you was still alive. It seemed very unfair. I wondered if this was the future that my parents wanted for me. I shook my head as I finished the rest of my food. I didn't want to believe that it was. My father was the one with the big dreams. He used to tell me that the future would supersede anything I could ever imagine. I used to believe him and have fun listening to him tell stories of different things that he believed would happen. Robots that could heal any kind of illness, technology that would make living on Earth the best possible thing that could ever happen to humans. Unfortunately, all of those things were just fantasies that couldn't become reality, no matter how much I wished it was real. My mother would watch us in amusement as we told stories about things that the government was doing and how it would all be perfect in the future. She used to say that we were carbon copies of each other. I looked like my father so much. We had the same hair and pale skin. We even had the same cute button nose. The only thing that seemed to be different was our eyes. His were green while mine were brown like my mother's. I didn't mind though, and I was happy I got features from both of them. It had been 10 years since he died now, my mom dying about 5 years